Welcome back to another spill drop tutorial. Today I am going to keep it brief because it is about 100 degrees outside, and that means it's about 100 degrees in the studio that I am working in. So suffice to say, it's a little too hot to be doing this, but I'm going to show you a couple of my most sought after designs, the designs that people have questions about most often, and some cheeky concepts that maybe I haven't really explored too much yet, but I think deserve a little bit of a shout out. Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump into the first tutorial of the day, how to place 4 of these pots on one of these floating shelves. Now this is something that I have found to be pretty straightforward once you know the trick. What I try to do is I try not to turn my character at all while I am placing these pots. So once you place the first one, you're going to want to lock that position. Just try not to move your mouse at all. Just use the A and D keys to strafe, and that will make the placements a lot easier. It can help if you kind of get lined up first. These pots, if you draw the colliders there, have square collision boxes. So don't treat them like they are round objects. They're not going to place, if you rotate them at an angle here, you're going to see you're starting to get weird issues with how the box collides. You'll see when I switch it back here, there's plenty of room. This pot should fit with no trouble at all, but because of those collision boxes and the fact that they are square, or I guess cubes really, they're going to block placements if you change the angle that you're placing these deployables at all. So go ahead and get rid of these 2 guys, and I'll show you how to get all 4 on this shelf pretty easily. What you're going to want to do is you're going to want to start as far over to one side or the other as you can, and wiggle it in there. You're going to place the first one, shuffle on over. You may have to draw your head back a little bit just so that way it pulls off the shelf. Slide it so that it's almost touching there. Place the second one, no big deal. Third one, same kind of way, beautiful. And now this fourth one should be no trouble at all. You've got a lot more leeway now since you've got kind of the rest of the shelf. But as you can see, those are all really nice and tight on that shelf. A pretty easy way to make sure that you are making the most out of the space. So again, the easiest trick is to start with one side of the shelf. Place your first pot as far over as you can so that it's overhanging quite a bit there, and then strafe using the A and D keys. Those are going to be the best ways to make sure that you're not rotating that collision box for these pots, so they all fit really nicely on the shelf like you see here. For really large base designs, I've got this super battery concept. This design is pretty straightforward. The one trick that you need when making this build happen, and this can work with either the half-height industrial shelf or the half-height bamboo shelf, whichever one you want. I'm going to go with the industrial one since that's relatively new. Your first impulse is going to be to snap it up against that wall so that you get a nice clean fit. You're going to want to ignore that impulse. Instead, get it lined up similarly to where the snap would be, so make sure you get it pushed into this corner as far as you can. You want that left edge or the right edge, depending on which corner you're working from, to be flush up against whatever surface you're working with. But you want that back edge, the one that's farthest away from me, to come off the wall just a little bit. So that right there, that should be fine. You see, it kind of sticks out just a little bit, but it's not too bad. And the reason that we need it to stick out just a bit more is so that you can fit these batteries on the back as far back against that wall as you can, and there's going to be a little bit of an overhang on the back side of the shelf. Now you have to do this because this front battery can't overhang very far. As you can see, it's got a very narrow window of overhang, and it can be tough to get that to line up. You can play with this quite a lot to get a better fit than what I've got here, but like I said before, this is just going to be kind of a quick and dirty tutorial for getting these placed. Now, it can be smart to start with the top batteries when you're doing this on your own, because otherwise these whatever they are that stick out of the top of the battery can act as kind of a little bit of a blocker for some of these placements, making it a little bit more challenging to get the batteries to place exactly where you want them to. But in this case, we're just going to make sure that it works here like that just fine. Squeeze this one in. You may need to kind of wiggle around when you're trying to make placements like this or with any of the super modules. Just get comfortable doing like a slight little wiggle as you're placing stuff. That way you can always kind of squeeze any extra space out of the design as needed. And just like that, all 8 of these medium batteries are on this half height shelf, and they're tucked away pretty nicely. Like I said earlier, if you push this shelf a little bit farther back against that wall but still leave a little bit of a gap, then you'll get some overhang on the front and the back, and the shelf will be a little bit further out of the way. But this still looks incredibly clean, and it fits very nicely into any space that you've got it in. As you can see, got perfect hallway to walk through here, and it's not impeding that movement, which is really, really nice for the amount of energy storage that you've got going on with this design. Now, I've shown you this design in several videos, and there are some kind of older tutorials about how to put it together, but I'm going to show you this design. I won't go through all of the electrical grid, but you can see here that we've got 50 rust watts per minute coming in off of a medium battery like this, and the leftover energy that we have coming out of this module here with 11 electric furnaces is 17 rust watts left over. So it's very efficient, and this will power all of your smelting needs pretty much regardless of the size of your base or your group, with a very low footprint and a low energy cost. Definitely an incredibly powerful module if you're looking for very efficient Rust gameplay. We'll get another shelf in. This one you can snap. It doesn't need to be pulled off the wall at all. Now, I will say that for this module, it is pretty important that you get it wired in as you go, because if you try placing all of these without wiring in these back furnaces along the wall, you're going to have kind of a tough time because things get really hard to reach down the line. We'll get a little bit of extra room here by getting rid of these splitters. We don't need them. Basically, you want the front of the furnace facing towards the open wall. In this case, the open wall would be here on the left side. Closed wall would be here on the right. Go ahead and get this guy squeezed in as far over as you can. Keep in mind that there is a collision created by this upright here. So you'll notice that I can get it all the way in this gap, but it doesn't go all the way up against the wall unless I kind of pull it over to the side a little bit. And then you see there's a little bit more wiggle room between me and that furnace. Place the first one there, get your second one placed right here. And again, do make sure that you're getting these furnaces plugged in, especially the electrical inputs as you go. It's going to save you a lot of heartache down the line. Now, get your adapters snapped on as well, and I do recommend getting these guys piped in. Another good trick, if you're in a pinch, is to use a combiner like this, because you can plug the input and output from one of these adapters into a combiner like so, basically meaning that these nodes will be accessible even if you can't reach them from, directly looking at this adapter. You'll be able to just go over to this connector, snap one of those ends off and connect it somewhere else, and snap the other end off and connect it somewhere else. These are just a great way to kind of keep the ends of your industrial pipes in a place where you can reach them relatively quickly. Let's go ahead and get the rest of our furnaces placed here. Go ahead and get this one down the same way. Again, you kind of want to test this by sliding it around just to make sure that it's snug as can be. Get your adapters on. And then this one, the orientation isn't super critical. And then you can put the adapter on that side or on the front, wherever works for you. That's half of it. Top half is actually way easier because you can snap up against the top shelf where you can't against the bottom. I don't know why that is, but that's just how it is. It's sort of like a little reward for getting this far. Of course, you can only snap some of them. You can't snap them all. This one you should also be able to snap. Put your adapter on. And then this last one can be a little bit of a doozy, or if you've done it enough times like I have, you can usually just kind of pop it on like so. But that is just how easy it is to get 11 electric furnaces worth of power. Pretty awesome, incredibly low profile, very, very nice. Up next, we're looking at this module here, which I haven't shown in any videos, but is one that I think is pretty neat. What you're seeing is 6 vertical barrels and this weird kind of metallic thing sticking out the top of these barrels down here. These are hoppers, and they're tied into these branches here that are outputting 8 rust watts each for those hoppers. Now, I think this server has Oh, there we go. You can see it just disappeared in there. You can do the same with that. It gets sucked in, and those hoppers will basically take anything that falls within their trigger range and plop them right into this barrel. You can see the trigger range on those is pretty significant, right? It's those 3 orbs that you're seeing right there that say trigger. Those are the triggers for the hoppers that you can kind of see glowing inside of those upper barrels. And anything that falls within that zone, say you drop a shelf over here, should get sucked right up into one of these hoppers. Pretty neat. So a very practical way to use this design is if you've got a lot of farmers, right? So picture this, you've got 4 or 5 wood farmers on wood tees going out there. They come back like 160 or 120k wood stacked up in their inventories. They're TC stacking like crazy, and they need someplace to get all of that wood deposited immediately because they need to go back out and enjoy those tees. What they're going to do is they're going to run up here. They're going to go into their crafting queue and they're going to cancel all of their crafts. That wood is going to explode out of them all over here, and it's going to start getting picked up by these hoppers. They can chuck their backpacks too. The backpacks will get sucked right up into the hoppers, drained, and then their backpacks will be sitting right in there. They can just pop them right back on their back and they're out and ready to go. If they're not on tees and they're just coming back from a raid and they want to rapidly respawn back at the raid without having to go back on foot, they can just run up here, F1 kill, and all of their loot is going to get sorted straight into these barrels. This trick doesn't work with all barrel skins. As far as I know, all 3 of these barrels have an exactly identical hitbox, so hard to say why it works for some and not others. But go ahead and get rid of those. We should be able to get it to work with the original Frontier barrel. The bamboo barrel will also work, but it looks like the newer barrels might be a little hit or miss. So I recommend testing with them on a build server before committing. Now, you'll notice that these barrels do not place over top of the hoppers. The hoppers have a collision box of their own. Go ahead and pick those up and take specifically this Frontier barrel, right? You're going to go ahead and place him up here on this shelf there. Get you placed right there. Okay. And you'll see that the hopper should be connecting right there. Yeah. Place it, and that's snapped now. It's a lot harder to see, and it might cause some issues there. This one, see, it's being blocked by that vertical storage barrel, so it's not working with the jungle barrel right now. And same with the abyss barrel. Place just the regular Frontier barrel down here, which you can either buy in the Frontier DLC pack or find pretty commonly on almost any server. They're all over the place. As long as you're using the Frontier barrels on top, you can snap these hoppers on there, no problem at all. Placing these bottom barrels makes a pretty big difference in terms of reaching the hoppers themselves, because the hoppers are pretty small and they will hide inside this barrel, making it pretty invisible. They still work. I don't think these ones are wired in, so they won't suck up anything yet, but they will still work even if they are fully hidden. The big issue here is that in many cases you can't actually access the power nodes if you can't see them. There are some cases where if you get the right angle you can kind of do it, but it definitely helps to have these lower barrels down here as far towards the front of the shelf as possible, and these upper barrels pushed as far against that back wall as you can go. That will make everything much easier to access, and you will have no trouble at all getting to the power node for those hoppers. And this one right here is just a concept that I came up with. So if you're working in a space that is 1.5 high or taller, then you can actually put the research bench, or like a fridge, for example, up on top of one of these half shelves, and you can still put plenty of stuff down below. Obviously, you can also get a little barbecue grill in here. Very cute, very nice. I don't know if I really need to tell y'all how this comes together. I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I recommend starting with the research bench because that can be one of the trickiest objects to deploy, since it has kind of a weird hitbox. But in any case, this is just to give you some concepts to work with, some ideas, things that you might want to try. But that is all that I've got for you today. Some really quick tricks for expanding the capacity of a small footprint base in Rust. If you want to see other kinds of content, adventures, challenges, demos, other kinds of exploits, please check out the Spill Drop Adventures channel and any of the other channels that I have linked. And if you liked this video, please leave a like down below. If you have any questions about what you saw or any suggestions, please leave those in the comments section. If you're on a mobile device, which I know quite a lot of you are, there may be an option to hype this video after you like it, sometime within like the first week or so after I post. That does so much more for the growth of this channel than you can even imagine. There's going to be other content on the Spill Drop Adventures channel, and there may be a couple of other channels coming soon. And as always, this is your friend Spill Drop with another video full of tips and tricks that are going to improve the way you play Rust. And I will catch you in the next one.